Hola amigos, me encuentro en el Tim Hortons y vamos a leer el Historical Sketch del libro Stratford upon Avon, el lugar de nacimiento de William Shakespeare. Voy a mostrarles unas fotos. Dice aquí, of the antiquity of Stratford, there is abundant archaeological and historical evidence. Traces of prehistoric man have been found in the area, and excavations have established the existence of a Roman settlement on the north side of the Gulf Links, not far from Clopton Bridge. Here, on a patch of light, gravelly soil near the edge of the wooded area, later known as the Forest of Arden, a small community of early settlers made their homes, exploiting the land in the river valley and engaging in the making of pottery and the smelting of iron and lead. Apart from the river, the settlement was linked with the outside world by a road of track which ran from the Rhineel Street in Alcester to the Foss, crossing the Avon at a ford near to Clopton Bridge. It flourished from the early days of the Roman occupation until the early 6th century, when it was destroyed by the Saxons in their advance from Bedford-on-Avon, 9 miles lower down the river. An Anglo-Saxon cemetery on the site of the Alveston Manor has been excavated. Archaeological finds of exceptional interest and importance illustrating these early phases of local settlement are preserved in New Place Museum. Later comers were not slow to recognize the natural advantages of this river crossing site. A Saxon monastery established itself here towards the end of the 7th century. It can be traced as part of a large estate held by the Bishop of Worcester, whose successors remained lords of the soil until the 16th century. Tradition has it that the monastery stood near the site of Holy Trinity Church, the area around which is still significantly called Old Town. It apparently had ceased to exist before the Norman conquest, but by this time a small community of lay tenants had grown up. A Domesday Survey facsimile on page 4 in 1086 records land in Stratford for 31 ploughs, an area of meadow, and a mill valued at 10 shillings and 1,000 eels. There were 28 villeins, 7 boarders, and a priest. The manor was held by Wulfstan, Bishop of Worcester, who had retained his estates at the conquest. Developments occurred during the 12th century which had a great influence on Stratford's early growth. The bishop's tenants were allowed to hold their plots of ground on terms known as burgage tenure, much more favorable than those of the purely agricultural view. Then, realizing its possibilities as a trading center, Bishop John of Constance secured for Stratford in 1196 the right to hold a market. And in 1214, King John granted a 3-day fair. Meanwhile, a wooden bridge built alongside the fort facilitated the river crossing. Stratford's importance as a center of markets and fairs increased during the Middle Ages. The town remained small, and it did not figure in the events of national history. As part of an ecclesiastical estate, it did not attain independent status and was never represented in Parliament. Nevertheless, its contacts with the outside world were not negligible. Travelers and merchandise crossed the Avon by its bridge. Cloth from the prosperous city of Coventry passed through on its way to Bristol and overseas. Tradesmen and craftsmen were attracted to settle here. Buyers from long distances attended its fairs, and country people frequented its markets. Moreover, some of Stratford's sons left the town and rose to eminence. John de Stratford became Archbishop of Canterbury in Edward III's reign. His brother Robert de Stratford was appointed Bishop of Chichester, and in Henry VIII's reign, Hugh Clopton became a successful merchant in London and ultimately Lord Mayor. He it was who built the great and sumptuous bridge, so described by Leland half a century later. Until that time, only a poor bridge of timber existed, very small and ill, and at high waters very hard to pass by, with the result that many poor folks and others either refused to come to Stratford when the river was in flood, or coming thither stood in jeopardy of life. The new bridge provided a safe crossing and guaranteed the future prosperity of the town. Okay, we're going to stop here and we will continue some other time. Thank you for accompanying me. I'll see you then.